All right, guys, what's happening? What's happening? It is Wednesday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, folks. And this morning, we're going to be talking about what happens if you don't make excuses. What happens when you stop making excuses? All kinds of great things happen in your life when you stop making excuses. The number one thing that will happen is you will be part of a very small group of people that you didn't even know existed. There are people out there that never, ever make excuses. We're going to talk about what happens when you stop doing that this morning. Let's get started.
It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right, guys, what's happening? Good morning to you and happy Wednesday. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody that's out there might be celebrating today. I won't be one of them, but, man, I hope you guys have fun that are out there celebrating Cinco de Mayo, whatever you celebrate that for. I don't even know what the day really is for. Glenn Lundy was talking about it this morning, and I was always under the understanding that it was, kind of a Mexico's Independence Day, which I figured out this morning was incorrect. So I'm going to look that up today and figure out and get myself some knowledge on that topic. Let's kick this off saying good morning to some folks. What's happening, Christina? Good morning to you, Jared, Michael, Bonetto, my man. I'm going to call you today, brother. I got a light schedule today, so I'm going to give you a call. David Martin, Carla, good morning to you. Rick, Scott, Bob, Mike Lazuski, good morning to you, man. And Matt and Mark Forelli, good morning to you guys. And thank you, Mark, for sharing a previous episode on your Instagram stories this morning, brother. I appreciate the kind words to you. All right. So what happens, guys, when you stop making excuses? The number one thing that I'm going to tell you is I've never met a super successful person that makes excuses. It just doesn't happen. And when you look at people that make excuses, you look at people that shift blame, that always want to have somebody else in the boat with them, that safety net, if you will. And so, you will never know what you are actually capable of until you take 100% responsibility for your actions. And when we look around the world today, there is such bad examples of what this looks like everywhere around us, right? There's constantly people that in front of us, people that are, maybe social media influencers or people that are, famous. And so you get to see a lot of them, but they don't really take responsibility for their actions. So there's a lot of bad examples of leadership, a lot of bad examples of kind of how to handle yourself in the public eye, whether it be, athletes or movie stars or famous people, whatever it is. And so what happens a lot of times is these people start to make excuses for things, and they set that example for our kids. They set that example for us. And we think we come to think that that's okay. So we start to model that behavior that we see. There's a lot of it in politics, right? Where we look at the people who are politicians who are supposed to be our leaders, and they do not set a great example for any of us when it comes to how to deal with issues, how to negotiate through problems, how to come to resolution. It's just, there's a lot of bad examples. And so what happens is that stuff starts to get out into society, and we start to think that, behaving in that way is okay because we see it so frequently. And here's what I'm going to tell you guys. When it comes to making excuses, it doesn't matter what other factors are involved in something that happens. It only matters what you did and what your role was and what your responsibility is. And so many times this insecurity that's deep rooted in all of us, right? This insecurity starts to bubble up, this idea of making excuses, of trying to figure out whose fault it is in addition to yours, trying to figure out who else you can get involved in this particular challenge with you, as opposed to just shouldering the responsibility and not making excuses. And here's what I'm going to tell you guys. those people that constantly make excuses for things, right? That constantly forgive their own behavior or overlook their own behavior. I'm going to tell you this, and this is a harsh statement to make, but it is 100% true. They eventually exhaust those people around them, don't they? Everybody can think of a person that makes a lot of excuses, right? That makes mistakes, and mistakes are fine. We all make them. But these people that make excuses for everything that they do, they just, they don't ever really take responsibility. And I'm telling you, if you think back in your life to these people who constantly make excuses, what happens to them is that they eventually exhaust the people around them. And now let's take the opposite of that. Let's look at what happens on the opposite of that. You take 100% responsibility for things. How would people feel in that scenario? How would the people around you feel if you took 100% responsibility for your part and you don't necessarily always concern yourself with what everybody else's responsibility is in it? You just own your part of it and you continue to try to get better yourself. What happens when you do that? Well, it's the opposite of you exhausting people, right? People are going to be attracted to that. They're going to have a high level of trust, a high level of commitment to those people that are taking responsibility for their part of it. This is something that I try to be very consistent with, and by no means am I perfect at it. But one of the things that I've tried to get better at over the last couple of years is recognizing when something is wrong and not necessarily leaning into having that conversation about what's wrong. Because 9 times out of 10, guys, when there's a mistake made and you have people around you that don't make excuses, and so I'm thinking of people in my mind right now that I work with on an everyday basis, and they're not excuse makers, right? And so when something goes wrong, with those people that don't make excuses, you don't necessarily have to address what happened all the time, because those people don't make excuses. They have already taken responsibility. So when something is wrong, you don't need to remind them of what was wrong, right? It's better to not do that. So as a leader, when you know that you've got people that don't make excuses, you treat them differently. Why? Because they're people that don't need that. They're people that don't exhaust you, that don't require that reminder of what happened, because they're not excuse makers. The people that do make excuses, ask yourself this question: how do you find yourself dealing with them? You're constantly wanting to have the conversation about what happened so that you can make sure that they understand their accountability and their piece in what happened, because you feel like they're making excuses for themselves all the time. Isn't this true? So when you think about what happens when you stop making excuses, you're going to attract better people into your life. You're going to make people want to be around you more. You're going to make them trust you more. You're going to achieve a higher level of success because people are going to have a higher level of trust for you, a higher level of ability to be able to involve you in more things, because they know you're going to get involved, do whatever it takes, never make excuses, and always take responsibility for the things that happen. Insecurity, guys, is at the root of people that make excuses. So when you are trying to help someone that makes excuses, make sure that you're doing it in a way that doesn't expose their insecurity. Exposing their insecurity is the worst thing that you could do. Helping them feel more secure is the best thing that you can do. And as you lead them through that process of helping them understand that maybe there's a little insecurity involved in what they're doing, they will become more secure. They will become more confident. Their self-confidence will grow. And over time, they will stop making those excuses. Because the reality is, the excuses don't get us anywhere. Whose fault it is doesn't get us anywhere. But taking responsibility, learning from those situations, that helps us get somewhere. It helps us grow. It helps us understand each other better. It helps us not repeat the same mistakes. How many of you know somebody that you can think of right now that makes excuses for the things that they do, and they find themselves making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again? Ask yourself, why is it that they make those same mistakes? It seems so clear to you that they're making these mistakes, but it's not clear to them. The reality is they're repeating those mistakes because they make excuses for themselves. They excuse their own behavior. And when you excuse your own behavior, when you make excuses to yourself and to others, you open the door for your subconscious mind to tell you that it's okay to do that again, because you've justified the fact of why it happened and you didn't take responsibility. But when you do take responsibility, when you own everything, you take 100% responsibility for your actions, you naturally will not repeat that behavior again. When you take 100% responsibility, you are committing that to your subconscious mind that that was not okay. And you will naturally not make those same mistakes over again. So ask yourself, how good at this are you? All of us make excuses, guys. All of us. The level at which we do it is all we can try to achieve, right? If we do it less and less and less, we're going to be successful. We will never eliminate it. I've never met a person that didn't make any excuses. We all do it. We all make mistakes every day. We all fall down. But if you learn to train yourself to take responsibility for those actions, for those decisions that you've made, tell the truth, you will be better yourself, and everybody around you will get better as a result. One of the things that I'm working on right now is a lot of content around how when you get better, everybody around you gets better. And the responsibility that we have to ourselves and to other people to continue that path. And it starts, guys, for me, when I am working with somebody, when I'm coaching somebody one-on-one, the number one thing that I will never allow is for them to make excuses. Because it doesn't teach. You cannot improve a person that excuses their own behavior. And you will never improve yourself until you take full responsibility for those actions that you take. And it's hard. It's really difficult. This is really difficult for some people to get over because there's a lot of insecurity there. Maybe it's the environment they were raised in. Maybe it's the first boss that they had. Maybe it's the last leader that they worked for that was really tough on them. And so they think that if they take responsibility with you, that same thing's going to happen, that they're going to be treated like they're less than. And so you have to, as a leader, as a friend, as a person that is there to help somebody, you have to make it a safe space for people to make mistakes. Because if you don't, you're going to create an environment where people, instead of taking responsibility, constantly make excuses because they don't feel safe making mistakes. So if you have a lot of people around you that are making excuses, ask yourself, what is it that you could do better that would allow those people to take responsibility? The culture that they exist in drives them to take responsibility or make excuses. And if you make it okay for people not to be perfect, then you will hear less excuses and more responsibility. And those people will grow as a result of that, right? When they embrace their own personal conflict of imperfection, they will start to realize who they are and where they need to work on. They'll accept the parts that are imperfect and they'll start to work on that stuff. Doesn't mean they'll get it all perfect. There are no perfect people. but we can be in pursuit of perfection, right? We can work on those things that we're not good at, but it takes the right environment for people to be able to work on that. But when you make the decision to stop making excuses, regardless of the circumstances, your life will take off like you've never seen. And when you are around those people, I want you to think about this week. As you're going through the week, think about those people that always take responsibility, that never try to sidestep anything that happens. And when you have those people that take responsibility, how comfortable do you feel around those people as leaders in your life, as people that you work alongside? Because you never feel uneasy about the fact that they're going to blame you. They're always going to take their part and own it. Think about it. Think about those people in your life that you might be thinking of somebody right now. How does that feel? Responsibility versus excuses. It's a completely different relationship that you have with those people, isn't it? And then ask yourself, which one are you? We're all the person that makes excuses every once in a while. Our goal is to minimize that, right? Maybe for you, it's once a week you make an excuse. Maybe it's once a day. And maybe you just need to drive that down to twice a week instead of once a day, and then once a week, and then once a month. Train yourself to take responsibility, guys. It's how you grow. It's how you get better. It's how you attract a higher level group of people around you. Nobody wants to work for or with somebody that passes blame to others. That's a fact. Leadership, doesn't matter what your title is. Leadership is about taking responsibility and not making excuses. When things go wrong, it's your fault. When things go right, it's because of them. Practice that in your life and you'll find yourself surrounded by incredible people. And when you stop making excuses, your life will take off like a rocket, because you will get better naturally just by owning your stuff, owning whatever it is. We are all imperfect. Own it. When you own it and you develop that self-confidence and that self-belief that it's okay to be imperfect, life looks completely different, guys. Nobody expects anybody to be perfect. You have that in your own mind. Like somehow you have these insane expectations of what you think other people expect of you. Unwire that. Nobody, by the way, here's a truth bomb for you, and this might hurt. Nobody wants to be around insecure people. Nobody wants to be around the person that constantly needs to be reassured. They want to be around people that when you go to battle, you look to your right and you look to your left, and you know for sure that those people are there with you, shoulder to shoulder, and they'll take the bullets along with you, and they'll take a bullet for you. And when you believe that, when you're around people that don't make excuses, they take responsibility, and they stand there in the line of fire, and they do whatever it takes to get through whatever problems you have and never make excuses, man, you are going places. You are going places. When you are surrounded by a bunch of those people, buckle up, man, because your life is going to get really exciting. And here's the reality. It takes you telling the truth to other people, even when it hurts, to get to that point of having those people you care about stop making excuses. Leadership is not always popular. Leadership is not always about telling people what they want to hear. It's about telling people the truth so that they can become the best version of themselves. And in turn, those people will make you better. And everybody rises together. The high tide lifts all boats. And it starts with taking responsibility and not making excuses. I hope this was helpful for you guys this morning. I hope it gave you some perspective on what can happen with your life when you stop making excuses. I hope you start practicing it today. I hope you catch yourself today making an excuse and saying, no. Nobody wants to be around that guy or that girl. Everybody wants to be around those people that stand tall in the face of adversity, that stand tall when things go wrong. They just raise their hand and say, it's my fault. I got it, but I learned from it. And next time we will do better. That's it. It's all people expect. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes, right? But nobody wants to be around the person that makes a mistake and then talks about it for 2 weeks. That's the truth. Cold, hard truth. It ain't always, listen, I tell you, what I tell you here is not always warm and fuzzy, but it is always the truth, and it will always help shape your perspective. That's my goal. So I hope you recognize that in yourself this week. I hope you help other people recognize it, because, man, when you help other people recognize it, you're giving them a true gift. Even if they don't like it right out of the gate, you're giving them a true gift in their life to tell the truth, to reshape somebody's perspective, and to help them stop making excuses. That's it, guys. Happy Wednesday. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Hope you guys have an awesome day. And I will see you again tomorrow morning, same place, same time, right here on Morning Perspective. Love you guys. Thanks for being here.